Hello, hello.
Great. Are we live? Awesome.
We're live.
All right, cool. So, welcome everyone. Today we're continuing our ARC Day One Builder series where we highlight teams building foundational infrastructure for the ARC developer ecosystem from day one. One of our biggest challenges in Web3 today is still user experience. Wallets, keys, onboarding, switching apps, all of it is still very complex for users and honestly very limiting for developers. So, that's why we're excited to spotlight Para today. Para is on a mission to simplify how every human interacts with blockchain. Para is a wallet as a service platform, helping developers embed wallets, authentication, money movement directly into their apps across chains, platforms, ecosystems. They power wallets for over 10 million users and work with key players across the ecosystem, including MetaMask, the Ethereum Foundation, and ecosystems like Syndicate. To help us break down how we're finally solving this UX problem with Web3, I'm excited to introduce Aditi, Head of Business and Operations for Para, and also a founding team member. Also, audience, if you have any questions during this talk, just put them in the chat and we'll try to get to them along the way. Aditi, thanks for joining us. And
Thank you for having me.
to kick things off, could you tell us a bit more about your journey and kind of what led you to be part of the founding team at Para?
Yeah. First of all, this is so well organized. Thank you to the ARC team for having me here. And we've had a lot of fun being part of the day one crew. So excited to share more about why we're excited about ARC and what we can enable together. A little bit about my journey. I've been working in crypto since 2017. So started my journey at Consensus. A lot of the early mission at that time was bringing additional developers to Ethereum and trying to bootstrap and grow that network effect. And so a lot of my work was on product, but kind of working through crypto on the chain side of things, I realized like the real problems with crypto really were this like UX layer and was seeing this firsthand. I was formerly the head of business at Celestia in 2021. So was just seeing that that's kind of the bottleneck for a lot of apps to actually come build on chain. And so was really excited to solve that and get the opportunity to solve that as a founding team member of Para. And I joined in late 2022.
Nice, nice. So, just to move on, like one thing we talk about a lot in crypto is how powerful the technology is, but how fragmented the experience still feels. So, I would love to dive into your perspective, or like, what are the biggest problems developers and users are still running into today that Pair is really focused on solving?
Yeah. I mean, everything you mentioned in the beginning, it's still challenging as a developer to build a really seamless experience on chain. And it takes the wallet layer to fix that, but it also takes the chain layer to fix that and think through kind of very thoughtfully the sorts of features and experiences that you want to build together. And so the kind of key areas that people will come to us for is everything around onboarding. So being able to give developers the tools to build fintech and crypto apps on chain. So this is everything from managing authentication and identity, managing transaction signing, managing the flexibility that's needed to have a variety of SDKs to integrate this across surface areas like web, mobile server, etc. And of course, different chains. We also bundle in, like you mentioned, things like money movement, so on and off ramping, things like gas sponsorship, there's transaction APIs, just making it kind of a one stop shop for building on chain with partners like Arc. And so a lot of how we think about the wallet layer is also just it is identity. So also limiting kind of the fragmentation of it as much as possible, both cross chain and cross app. And so this entire suite of stuff is what people typically come to us for. And yeah, excited to dig in more.
Yeah, I mean, even with stablecoin flows, they've shifted massively over the last 2 years. From your vantage point at Para, how has the way people use stablecoins changed, and where do you see that
Yeah.
going in 2026? We'd love your insight on that.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have been at the forefront of so much of that for so long. But I think like we've just seen so much of growth in both circulation and transaction volume of stablecoins. I think the latest number is something like 250 billion plus in supply and something like 27 trillion plus in volume. And we're only going to see that increase. I think in the past, in previous cycles, we had seen fintechs and Web2 companies get excited about crypto and have crypto be like a separate org in the corner of the company and have it be kind of this like time box experiment. And then people kind of moved on. I think of like all of the NFT experimentation and like all of those kind of frothy projects that launched and kind of wound down. I think now we're just seeing that a lot of fintechs and big co's are routing substantial volume through stablecoin rails. So things like weekend settlements, cross border payments. Um, and I think a lot of this is driven by a lot of the regulatory clarity, like the Genius Act in the US, which obviously requires things like one-to-one reserve backing. And so um, we've we think that is just going to continue to grow. And certainly the use cases that we see around payments are really, really strong and exciting. So things like people building stablecoin accounts and money movement, people building cross-border remittance apps and payments apps. We see a lot of embedded finance. So classic DeFi mullet style, fintech in the front, DeFi in the back style apps. And we see a lot of obviously trading and asset management. So everything from RWAs to Doge and other tokens. And so we are continuing to invest in all things payments and fintech. And that we expect to just see that interest grow. And we're certainly seeing that through the beginning of this year.
Nice, nice. Speaking of fintechs, they bring a very different set of requirements, than working with kind of early stage crypto startups. Are there any specific like challenges or even surprises in building the infrastructure that these teams can rely on? What have you seen?
I think a big surprise is just like people are very excited to bring stablecoins so deeply into their stack. Like
Mm,
again, like it used to just be that crypto was this like side project where you have maybe like an innovation team focusing on it for some period of time. But like the surprise has been like there is like so much interest in entrenching a lot of these crypto rails on chain in the very core of these businesses. And these are, multi-billion dollar businesses that we're talking to. And so it's been that has been like just a surprise in itself and very, very exciting. In
mm,
terms of challenges, I mean, a lot of the legacy infra is so deeply entrenched with fintechs and a lot of these neobanks and a lot of these exciting companies. And so these are orgs that have been sitting on top of these legacy rails for so long. And it's been working. And so now when there's this kind of opportunity to switch that out, um, that's a big undertaking, and it's no longer like a bolt on to your system. It's something so foundational, and you're managing the existing reputation of these companies, trust. Like there's a lot there in navigating that decision. It's not like something that can just be rolled out,
yeah.
tomorrow. Yeah, and the other thing, and I think like this is where ARC has like really thought very foundationally about some of these challenges. So I'm excited to get into that. But compliance is a first class constraint. In blockchain, there's no such thing as recourse or reverting a transaction in any way. But in fintech and these legacy companies, payments companies, you do need the compliance guardrails. And so we've thought about that a bit with things like we have a policy framework on top of our transaction infrastructure, and so you can set things like rules on top of the transactions that are being executed. But still, like these are compliance frameworks that fintechs and big orgs need to have audited and just need to be able to rigorously look at that more closely. Um, and then the last thing is like risk and aversion to liability can slow things down, and so that's expected for projects we talk to that are so entrenched in the legacy system. But we find that there's actually more of an interest to do kind of something like a POC and then roll it out to the broader system. And so
Yeah.
yeah, which makes sense, but it's an interesting kind of shift in how we've thought about approaching some of these companies.
Interesting. So I imagine there's a lot of education back and forth with those engagements, right? How did
Totally. It's
yeah, like within your team, like how is your team made up to like address those things? So you guys sit down with those fintechs directly, or like how does that even work?
yeah, it's this entire kind of full-blown kind of education management that needs to happen. A lot of the times there is some sort of foundational education, but it
Mhm.
might be crypto 101. It might be like questions we get is how can you support Bitcoin but not support Bitcoin smart contracts? And that's a very distinct difference of doing things like transfers, but smart contracts are a completely separate kind of layer on top of the Bitcoin network. And so, like things like that is where we often realize like maybe there's some foundational understanding in how these systems work, but we need to go a level deeper. I have noticed, even market wise, there's differences in that education. So in the US, there's a little bit more of a sell on why stablecoins itself.
Mhm.
However, in markets like LATAM or abroad, you kind of can skip that like why stablecoins piece and just get into how the two could work together. And so certainly differences in markets as well, in addition to the products they're building, of course.
Interesting. Those are great insights. So Para now powers wallets for over 10 million users. Can you talk a bit about some of the specific customers and kind of use cases you're seeing, and where does Para tend to be the best fit?
Yeah. So there's a couple of categories I'll touch on. Payments, I'm going to dedicate some time to discussing that because I have some specific customer examples I want to share. Payments certainly comes up a lot for us. We're also a really nice fit for things like identity,
Mm.
mostly because of our key feature of kind of reducing fragmentation of account creation. So imagine like you create an email wallet in one app, that email wallet in that one app can actually be reused in app number two without having to export the private key. And so we work with teams like ENS. We are there. They actually just launched V2 of their app, so everybody should go check that out.
Nice.
Um, but if you want to create an ENS handle via an email and you don't have a crypto wallet, you can do that. And then you can actually reuse that email account in other apps where you might want to use your ENS handle. And so, kind of universal identity really is the crux of a lot of our customers as well. And then everything around ecosystem. So, a lot of teams will also just white label Para um, because of the single sign on ability. In terms of payments teams, a lot of payments teams will leverage Para for things like the security benefits and the ease of use. And so, one example I want to talk about is Zelio. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Oh, there we go.
Here we go. All right. This is a really interesting company. They actually power cross border remittances in Nigeria via SMS and WhatsApp. Their sole stablecoin that they use is USDC, but they're an interesting one because they needed the security guarantees of being able to do this via SMS and text, but also needed a reliable, trustworthy stablecoin that could work across borders. And so you can kind of generate Para wallets headless in WhatsApp and be able to kind of manage these transfers. And so all a user needs is WhatsApp or SMS, and this also works on things like feature phones, which is really
Wow.
exciting.
Okay.
So this is one project that we're very very excited about. Another one that comes to mind is Decal. They're kind of squarely in this embedded finance category. They do things like merchant payments for brick and mortar stores. It's quite fun. They're starting with San Francisco and New York. Transactions look normal for the end user. So it just looks like I'm just paying $10, whatever. In the background, everything is DeFi enabled and stablecoin enabled. So you're getting things like yield, you're getting things like um, rewards on your stablecoins. Their whole thing is any rewards that are being earned at one of these merchant stores should be composable. So let's say I'm getting Burger King bucks at my local Burger King. I should be able to use those rewards in Starbucks. And so making those rewards composable and kind of reusable. And so Of course, they're using Para for the stablecoin account capabilities, but also the composability and the reusability of these assets is a big element of why they're an interesting one to share here. Um, Another exciting customer that I always like to highlight is Juicebox. Juicebox is obviously behind the historic Constitution DAO fundraise that happened a few years ago. They have Para integrated for everything from easy wallet creation to things like money movement. So not only can you create one of these campaigns, and so one of their most popular fundraises is the Roman Storm fundraise. And
Mm.
so you can kind of contribute through stablecoins. You can be from anywhere in the world and participate and set up an account really seamlessly. And so these are just kind of a smattering of use cases that I wanted to highlight, but all kind of leveraging Para for a variety of unique reasons, but really just ease of onboarding and ease of kind of getting money on chain.
Nice. These are really cool use cases, and I love how you're like essentially creating a network effects with wallets. Like you're creating like a social
Yeah.
network almost with wallets. Like that's really cool. I hate going to a new app and having to create a new wallet and have to deal with all that, but you're creating
Yeah.
kind of a universal wallet so people can move seamlessly through all these different apps and things. That's really cool. You're
Yeah, and so a lot of ecosystems will just white label this entirely.
yeah,
So we work with an example is the Miden ecosystem. They have just white labeled Para entirely. So all a user sees when they log into a Miden app, Miden is a privacy chain. They just see like sign in with Miden, and so they don't really care or know about Para, which is so fine. But the intention is now you have as a Miden developer building on the chain, you have a network of users with funded wallets that can now kind
yeah.
of start transacting immediately. So yeah, it's been really interesting to see kind of how and why both ease of onboarding and things like composability matter. And I think especially for payments use cases where if you are doing cross-border remittances, you want the wallet that someone is receiving funds in to actually be useful elsewhere. And so we're seeing a lot of these kind of early assumptions the team made play out in real time, which has been a lot of fun.
And even onboarding via SMS, that's interesting. You're meeting your
Cool,
users
right?
where
Yeah,
they're
I
at.
love it.
Like this is really, really great. Like I love
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So that's been really cool. They're trying to roll out to more countries. So we're excited about that
yeah,
one.
that's unique. So I want to shift over to Arc. So
That's right.
as you all know, we've launched testnet version of our Arc blockchain, our L1 blockchain, which is purpose built to bring together programmable money, on-chain innovation, and real-world economic activity. We're super excited for the upcoming mainnet. Pair chose to be a day one partner with us, and I wanted to ask you, what initially drew you guys to Arc, and why did you feel like it was the right ecosystem to build alongside? And then also, how does this like partnership accelerate your mission?
Yeah. First of all, there's really awesome things about Arc that I want to highlight, but the team, so you and Corey and everyone else on the Arc team is just amazing to work with. So anybody listening, if you get the chance to work with the Arc team, you totally should. But they also have really good tech. So um, obviously, we found Arc to be the market leader and really purpose built for stablecoin finance, which is obviously a vertical that we're very, very much focused on supporting in our own ecosystem. And so we're very excited about features like stablecoin denominated fees. So the ability to just have like gas paid in USDC, which is so major for kind of predictable dollar based fees, which we see as a necessity for fintechs, payments apps, anybody building in this category that's dealing with kind of wanting to abstract the crypto away as much as possible. Um, Everything around things like sub-second finality is critical for use cases again in the in the payments world, but things like reconciliation. Having that just be fast is important. Treasury operations, a lot of the trading use cases we see. In fact, we've also seen a lot of apps in the Para ecosystem get excited about Arc support and want to start building on it. And so it's a nice kind of network effect that we're already seeing. And then things like opt-in privacy with auditability. As mentioned before, like compliance is just like it needs to be a first class constraint for a lot of these payments companies and fintechs, and so it's really nice that that's been considered at the protocol level. And it's not something, of course, we have a feature set around that, but it's not something that we now need to also think about. It's kind of um, was a very thoughtful feature set from day one.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think the really like how it shows that Arc kind of understands the customer profile that you guys are targeting as well. And I find that there's just a nice kind of overlap between focus areas.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, the instant finality is great, right? I imagine that changes the user experience on, the user experience side with, doing a transaction on blockchain, having it instant, right? Like, kinda changes
Totally.
like,
Totally.
between chains, it changes that, like, that flow, and it makes it more like a Web 2.0 experience, right?
Totally. I mean, the a big thing that we notice is when users can sign with Para and they're not like waiting around for
Mhm.
confirmations, and especially for things like transfers or payouts or funding actions, like you're moving money, and so you don't want to have to wait if like is this thing on, did
Right.
this actually go
Cross
through,
your fingers,
right? And so
oh.
right, like you and I are so like I still send test transactions all the time because I'm so scared to like send to the wrong address or like until things get updated. Like it's just scary to not know where the money is, and so for these style of use cases, it's so major. Like you want to have all these actions feel like real time, and it's just critical for even some of the markets we support.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait till the day we get past the test transaction stage, and we just,
Okay,
be confident
like
that this
I'm
is
not
gonna go
past that.
through and it's final, right? No, that's
Right.
awesome. Developers, often ask, whether they should rely on external wallets or embed wallet functionality directly into their app. How do you help teams think about, when pair makes sense versus kind of other wallet approaches?
Yeah. So what's nice is we combine both. So if you want to turn on external wallet support, you totally can. And I'll show you that in the demo in a little bit. But if you want to just kind of focus on onboarding the crypto natives, go for it. There's a toggle for that. If you don't, there's a toggle for that too. And so you would just kind of enable embedded wallets. And yes, I think the distinction between the two external wallets like MetaMask Phantom, et cetera, versus something like an embedded wallet like Para. Yes, the distinction is kind of around like the sort of user you want to onboard, crypto native versus new. But I also think there's a good distinction around the UX. So there's some apps like like for example, like a mobile app focused on trading, you're not going to want to have an external wallet in that because as soon as you pull up that mobile app, if you're prompted to kind of approve transactions in another app or prompted to do this like QR code thing, you're going to lose users. And so a lot of the time with mobile, we find that embedded is the default because then it's just kind of all there. And so you're not switching context to sign transactions. It's all just happening in one place. Um, so it's about the user base, it's about the UX. And then sometimes we get like questions and um, questions around things like the ability to do bundled money movement in an embedded wallet. So it is really nice to be able to on ramp, immediately bridge, kind of have all of that functionality in one place rather than like prompting your user to go somewhere to do those actions. And so that with something like an account abstraction, which we're fully modular with. So one could even use like Para with, I don't know, some other smart account model and get the easy social sign on with things like gas abstraction. So like that kind of bundling is also another reason people kind of like using an embedded wallet versus an external wallet.
Got it, got it. I want to hop into a demo, but before that, I had another question about just
Yeah.
interoperability, like, cross-chain things, right? Like, do you guys have those things integrated right now? Like, CCTP, we have our CCTP product, our gateway product. Is there plans to integrate those things? Tell me a little bit about it.
I would love to integrate those things.
Okay.
Yes. We should totally chat about
Yeah.
that, because I think that's a big part of how people, so especially because Para is global in this way. Let's say a user has USDC on base and they come to an ARC app and they now need to, like, we don't want to have them go through, like, I need to bridge this USDC to transact on ARC, and like, how do I do that? Having that be seamless and part of that onboarding flow is something like we definitely want to enable. And so yeah, we should chat about that after. But yeah, there's probably ways we can work more deeply beyond just the enabling people to like buy and use USDC. But this is the whole point of having an embedded wallet. Like ideally, you don't have to think about that step.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's hop into a demo. I want to see the platform and
Yeah.
what you guys got going.
Okay. Sweet. Let me try to share. Cool. So, as mentioned, this is kind of just a quick overview of the demo app. You have full control over things like configuring the look and feel of the experience. And so everything is kind of totally malleable. So you can change colors, you can change accent colors, you can change the font or the radius of the modal. It's really up to you. It's also quite flexible in the auth methods you want to kind of have available for your user base. So, as mentioned, if you don't want to include things like regular crypto native wallets, you can just turn that off and hide it entirely. Or if you want to kind of include that, you can turn it back on and toggle on, different sorts of wallets, depending on what's important to you. In terms of the Web2 auth methods, again, you can totally collapse it. You can also include it back and turn on the ones that are the most important to you. So really, really flexible in terms of how you want to present this to your user base. And so, as mentioned, there's web SDKs, mobile SDKs, kind of you get the full code output of everything we just configured. And so, like trying to make this integration as easy as possible. And then there's a whole lot around things like additional features. So you can kind of configure security settings if you want to add like additional security on the wallets, things like on-ramp providers. So you can configure that. You can also get as nitty gritty as you want with the sorts of assets that are presented in the on ramp flow. So let's say you just want to have people be able to buy USDC and start transacting. You can pin that as the preferred asset in our developer portal, which is where you'd go to manage this entire integration in your API keys. And so integrating Arc is quite easy. All you need to do is follow this guide. It's under our walkthroughs under Arc. And basically just add the Para SDK with Arc's chain ID and RPC URL. And so we're very, very excited about this partnership, and it's quite easy to add Arc into Para and start transacting on Arc. And so, yeah, that's how you get started.
This is amazing. I mean, from a developer standpoint, this is like heaven, right? Like, you know, you being able to procedurally design the UI and customize it and just, with a few lines of code integrate into your app, that's the best, like this, that is a really great developer experience. And, as developers, we don't always want to have to develop, UI from scratch, right? And this helps us get, started with integrating wallets right into our apps super easy. So I love the way that you guys designed this interface. Is very easy and intuitive, and this is great. Like, really love the thought that was put into this. And
Thank you.
also
And
another thing is that you have a ton of integrations too, like SDKs, right? Like mobile
yeah,
SDKs,
we
web
do.
SDKs, backend SDKs. Those are also really, really great.
We have pretty wide integration surface area. So web, like you said, mobile. So there's React Native, Swift, Flutter, everything with server wallets and a server SDK. We have a REST API. We have just a host of different ways to integrate, and obviously support for all the most popular web frameworks. And so really up to you on how you want to kind of build the para integration and hook it up with your app. But yeah, it's quite flexible. And then I wanted to showcase the logged in state. So once you're logged in, this is kind of what it would look like to a user. And you can, of course, like present this however you'd want to the user, but everything from this is on beta mode. So it's going to tell you you're on beta mode. So you shouldn't be buying funds right now, but you can buy funds, you can receive funds, you can send funds, withdraw, and then this is kind of profile management. So here's your wallet. You can, of course, even switch your wallet in the session. So let's say like we get this use case a lot where people want to use their existing crypto native user base as auth. So let's say like an app has like a lot of crypto native
Mhm.
community. You can get them to log in with their MetaMask or their external wallet and then provision an embedded wallet from that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So there's like flexibility in the auth model depending on like what you want, but you can even switch out what wallet is signing during a session. You can connect other wallets and you can even link other socials. And so some people will use this for like better targeting of their users if they, want people to like link a bunch of accounts for like a campaign or something. And so yeah, so this is kind of the full end-to-end product. Logging in is also really easy, and I highly suggest everyone goes to the demo app to get started.
This is really awesome. I love how you're including, crypto native and non-crypto folks as well. Like it's very flexible, super robust. No, I can't wait to get start working with this. Um,
Yeah.
so let's talk about, if we're looking at the roadmap for the rest of 2026, what excites you most about what Pair is building over the next, let's say, like 6 to 12 months?
Yeah. I'm super excited about getting a little bit closer to the so like I've talked about how like we do the wallet creation and then there's this whole like integration side of things with on ramps and money movement and such. I'm really excited about making that process a lot more seamless, specifically with kind of streamlining how people are even getting money into these wallets, and making that a lot more simple. And obviously, like we are reliant on partnerships with Circle and other providers, and so that's something that I'm very very excited to dig into a little bit more in this year's roadmap. The other thing that I'm very excited with is just the sheer kind of interest we've received in terms of apps that want to build on Arc. So one feature that we hear a lot about is this like the ability for fees on Arc to get paid out in USDC is really interesting. And so that way you're actually skipping over a lot of like the classic UX problems associated with that. So you don't have to like pre-fund wallets with a separate gas token. You don't have to like build swap UX into the wallet to just cover transaction fees. Like users basically will never have to manage a gas token and everything looks dollar denominated, which is really exciting. Um, and so like we're seeing a lot of just like sheer excitement around that. And I think this goes to a larger point of like this model of kind of fintech in the front, looks like a normal app, really simple and easy to understand, complete DeFi in the back, where you're getting yield on your balances. You're getting things like the ability to stake, like you're just getting more for the value that's sitting in these accounts via stablecoins. Like I think that's all kind of the set of stuff that I'm really jazzed for. And I think it goes really well with this topic today because I think a lot of the work that you guys are doing foundationally at the protocol level, like makes a big difference to some of these items.
Yeah, no, that's super exciting. I mean, especially like, with, USDC sitting in these wallets, you want it to be working for you, right? And, as we grow the ARC
Right.
ecosystem out, it's going to be a huge opportunities, around yield and things like that, right? So, yeah,
We get funny questions from people. Like people will be like, 5%, like that's not great. Like, can we get 10%? And it's like, there's this whole discussion of the education angle of like, okay, like yes, there's yield, but like let's talk about risk and like what's your risk appetite. And how do you trust this? And so that education angle that we talked about earlier is like never ending, but we do get funny questions with crypto and DeFi. Like as soon as people realize what's possible, they're like, can we do more? And it's like, we should talk about that.
yeah, definitely, definitely. This has been a really, really great conversation. I wanted to see, if there's any audience questions as well. I don't see any in the chat.
Same. I don't
I don't know,
either.
Sam, if there's any questions that I'm not seeing here. Uh,
How can we find the
yeah.
host's X handles?
If anybody has
Just want to
questions,
see.
just put them in the chat, and I can ask them. But if not, um, before we let you go, where can people follow your work and stay updated on the latest para, features and deployments?
Yes. You can follow Para announcements and milestones at our Twitter account. So at GET_PARA, get para, is our Twitter handle. And then my handle is, this is also Twitter, at ADEETS_22. And yeah, I share a lot of para things on there, but also it's just, yeah, just things about building with stable coins and building with the leading fintechs of the world. And so if anyone's interested in that, that would be great too.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to let you get back to work. I know you have a lot to do, but thank you for walking us through Para and the work that you've been doing. It's been amazing work, and the product looks amazing. So, thanks to everybody that joined in and tuned in. We'll drop links to Para and Arc docs in the chat, and we'll see you at the next Arc live stream.
Thank you so much, Anthony. This was a
All
blast.
right.